All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about Jaron Ennis, Terrence Crawford, and Errol Spence Jr. and what Deontay Wilder's trainer Malik Scott had to say about a fight between any of those two with Jaron Ennis. Man, and some of y'all ain't gonna like it, but look, I do, and I think he is not far off the target. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 147-pound division talking about the future of boxing. Because unfortunately, right now, does not look like we are going to get the fights of the present. However, never be dismayed. When you don't get one thing in boxing, there's always on the horizon something just as bright out there. And I think we have that in the welterweight division. And so does the trainer for Deontay Wilder, Malik Scott, talking about Jaron Ennis answering a specific question about whether or not he thinks Jaron Ennis could fight Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. right now. His answer was enlightening. And I'm telling you, it's something that I agree with. Before I get into those specifics, though, if you're new to the channel, please consider accepting my invitation of hitting the subscribe button so that you can see the videos that we do pretty much on a daily basis in the live streams that we do every day. We have really great boxing conversations going on here. So please make sure y'all hit that. Also, to everybody that supports the channel on the long-term subscribers, thank you guys so much. There is a new way to support the channel, and it is called Super Thanks, and it's a little heart down there. If you feel like supporting the channel and what we do, your support would be greatly appreciated. Let's get into the subject matter of the video. Jaron Ennis, Malik Scott was asked a question, and I saw this video on YSM Sports Media. They do a lot of work interviewing fighters out of Philadelphia, the gyms in Philadelphia. In this particular instance, they interviewed Malik Scott, who's the trainer of Deontay Wilder. Must have been in the lead-in to the the press conference for Deontay Wilder, Robert Helenius, which is, I do believe they just had the other day. I was out of town, with a family event, so I was not able to see the press conference, but I did see the press and the interviews that came on after that. And Malik Scott was asked, what do you think about Jaron Ennis fighting Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. right now? And Malik Scott's take was, and I'm going to paraphrase it, was that, look, man, Jaron Ennis is not just one of the best welterweights in the world. He very well could be one of the best fighters in the world. And he said when he started comparing Errol, was very politically correct about it, right? But at the same time, if you know how these fighters fight and you know what he's saying. He said when you look at Jaron Ennis, Jaron has something different than either one of those guys has, which is not just the experience that he has through professional fights, but the pedigree that he came underneath. And that is something that I've said for a long time about Jaron Ennis, and how he basically came up in a situation not much different than Floyd Mayweather Jr., where he was pretty much born in a boxing ring. Father is a high-level professional trainer. In the case of Floyd Mayweather Jr., his uncle was a former world champion. His father was a former world title contender, and went on after, he had some time away from boxing, to be one of the best trainers in the world, right? And he had another uncle named Jeff Mayweather, who you always see over on the Mayweather boxing channel, was also a title contender, a very, very good fighter, known as the Mayweather brothers. And Floyd Mayweather Jr. came up under that umbrella, and also in a state and where they have, in the state of Michigan, where it doesn't matter if you're from Lansing, you're from Flint, you're from Detroit or other areas in there. There's just a very, very rich boxing community and a rich boxing tradition in that particular area. So they know how to train. They know how to coach. This stuff has been passed down from, these guys who are like Hall of Famer, all-time greats from that area. Same thing with Jaron Ennis in the the city of Philadelphia, where the boxing pedigree in Philadelphia it's off the chain. And his father, Bozy Ennis specifically, is a longtime trainer in the area. He has two older brothers that were solid professional fighters that, kind of lost interest or might have went away from the sport. And Jaron Ennis was brought up in that particular area. So when you look at that, according to Malik Allen, when you look at that, and then you look at his skill set that he has, and his size and his talent, look, man, these dudes can beat Errol, Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford right now. And he said it's not with Jaron. It's not a situation where you're going to look at and say, okay, how much experience did he gain in the pros, right? Okay, now he's 28-0. He's fought this guy. He's fought this guy. He's fought that guy. Now he's being developed, to where he's getting up. He's like, no, having been raised like he's been raised, he got through a lot of that experience and a lot of that maturing and development before he ever got to the pros and was pretty much ready to go. And of course, you get bigger, you get older as when you turn pro at like 18 or 19 or whenever you turn pro to when you're 24. But it's like, look, man. And then he talked about Errol Spence and said, look, Errol's got slow. He didn't say Errol specifically. He said one of them has slow feet. The other one gets hit occasionally. The other guy gets caught. One of them gets caught in between punches. All of those things for him contribute to Jaron Ennis being able to do it right now. Now, my take on the matter is, I don't know. Right. Obviously you have to have those. You actually have to step in the ring. You have to have those fights. But I will tell you this, where you see Terrence Crawford get in the ring with Sean Porter and you're like, oh, man, that's a 60-40 fight. He'll be pushed. We'll see how he reacts to that. Or you see Errol Spence Jr. get in the ring with, say, like a Danny Garcia, and you're like, okay, he's going to win this fight as long. But what happens if he gets hit with that no look left hook from Danny Garcia, right? In this, if either one of those guys are fighting Jaron Ennis, it's a completely different scenario in my thinking when he gets in that ring. Then it's like, man, can these guys beat Jaron Ennis? Because there has not been anything that either one of those guys have been in the ring with in their career that looks like that. And on top of it, I don't believe that there's anybody that either one of them, and I do believe that Malik Scott said the same thing. I don't believe that there's anybody that they've beaten in their careers that Jaron Ennis wouldn't do the same thing to. If you just do a matchup with them, and even at the time when they were in their best shape period, right? And I'm talking about like Kell Brook. No point in time in Kell Brook's career do I think Jaron Ennis does not have the ability to beat him. Or Sean Porter or Danny Garcia. Though I think that dude is just really is another level talent and can do pretty much anything and fight in any area that either Errol Spence Jr. or Terrence Crawford can. So, it's just going to be interesting stuff now. But like I said in the beginning of the video, I don't know if those two fights are ever going to happen. We're talking about, Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford fighting to determine who's the best welterweight in the world. But as you look at, and the fight is taking longer and longer to make, doesn't look like it's going to happen this year because of the fight dates. My mind's eye starts gravitating towards, okay, what's going to happen in this weight class next? Time waits for nobody, right? Errol's 32. Terrence Crawford is 35, is 34, going to be 35. I do believe around the November time frame. So these guys within the next year, 2 years, these guys are starting to be kind of the senior representatives of the sport. And when you got a guy like Jaron coming up who's 25, going to be 26, 27 at that time, he really, and there's not anybody else that I see that is really rivaling him in that division that looks like, or even in the weight class below him. Jaron may be able to handle 147, handle 154 and 160, and then just kind of, man, it may be the Jaron Ennis show, man. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not like some of these people out there that are going to tell you, I'm going to wait to see what this dude does against this guy or that guy. Man, there's some people you can see that stuff in kind of early, and I maintain that that's the case with Jaron. But anyway, you let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.